Hello, everybody, and welcome to our continuing conversation in our series on why Black Lives Matter. Today, we felt that it would be fitting to feel into the space of and discuss the space of ending our relationship with struggle. So, we haven't done this in a while, but I'd like the team to introduce themselves today again, and then we'll take it from there.
Hi, I'm Tanisha.
Hello, I'm Anastasia. I'm in TFAS like everyone else here. Nice to meet y'all.
Hi, I'm Noreen, and I've been in this conversation for more than a year.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna.
And I'm Granville Campbell, and yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. We have been, as Doreen said, having this conversation for over a year now. I think we've touched on quite a few topics, and some of them have been ones of topics where others have been recurring topics. I think some of it has also been in the underlying space of a relationship with struggle. And so, yes, they've been in various forms of conversation, but at the core of it, there is the essence of struggle. And that's why I felt like it was fitting for us to go into that space today and just understand even just how far we've come with understanding that struggle doesn't have to be our reality. And as we feel into that space, also to realize that we have powerfully healed some very significant struggly energy. So yeah, I feel like it's been quite a journey for this team. And I think we've learned some good lessons around just connecting to who we are as not only children of God, but as divine children of God and powerful creators in our own reality and powerful co-creators with God in our reality. And in knowing that, how easy it is to release what seems to be a perception of struggle. So yeah, I'm going to open it up to the team and see how they feel about where we've come from and where we're going to, and how that feels in terms of having ended quite a bit of the relationship with even just the perception of being in struggle or struggling. So yeah, I'm going to open it up to the team, and we will have a free-flowing conversation. And if there are healing points that we believe are fitting to delve into, we will go down that road as well.
Yeah, so I was actually just kind of looking over this myself, reflecting over how far I've come personally on this journey, where when I started doing this work, I was a newly single mom. I didn't have much money. It felt like I was the driver of the struggle bus, and that there was no chance of me getting off of it. But by really moving through this work and choosing to know that like my power is never taken from me, or my peace is never taken from me, I really started to cultivate just this level of knowing that all my needs were going to be taken care of and met. The more that I dove deeper into doing this work and choosing to trust God, the more that the things that I felt that I had to struggle with by myself, it seemed like there was just kind of like this outside force. It was helping me move through things. And so I definitely find myself not on the struggle bus anymore, which is really nice. I don't move through any events or upsets with a lot of resistance like I used to. That was really what it was. It was my resistance to being loved. That's why I felt like I was struggling so like deeply and I couldn't get myself above water, is because I was really resisting being loved in that space and being taken care of. And so now I find that if I am having a struggle, it's just because I'm resisting love and I'm resisting moving through the feeling. And so it's been really powerful to be able to look at the places that feel kind of like a struggle in my life and look at them and move through it instead of ignoring them, which is what I used to do. I used to just act like they weren't there because I didn't want to have to deal with the feeling. For me, one of my biggest struggles was my finances. That was a huge thing for me. It was always living paycheck to paycheck, not knowing where my next income was coming from, and always just feeling really stressed and overwhelmed and really alone in that space. But the more that I implemented the mirror exercise in that area, the more that my abundance really grew, because I was learning that my abundance and everything that I needed was within inside of me. And that's really helped a lot. And even just the Black Lives Matter, because one of the upsets I really had to work through was kind of just being one of those Black moms that was on welfare and that needed extra help from the state and stuff like that. And that felt really bad for me. And so to be able to move through that and not to need like that extra help because my source was God, he really helped me move out of that to where I was financially taking care of myself and my boys, and I didn't really need to like lean on that extra support. I was able to produce that extra support within myself. Yeah, so it's really having to like understand that if you're struggling somewhere, it's just because you're resisting love in that space. A lot of times resisting looking at that space, and it's really okay because you're not meant to struggle. You're meant to feel good and you're meant to be loved in every moment. And so yeah, just realizing that my life is not meant to be a struggle. It's not meant to feel bad. It's actually meant to feel good and always be in the flow. And so I choose not to struggle. I choose not to have that energy in my life, and if I do, I just choose to move right through it.
I can definitely relate to being on the struggle bus prior to discovering this work, where I felt like I could not get off, and I just could not go past, that survival mode. But now I know that I can, because this work and also Black Lives Matter have taught me to claim back my power. And so claiming back my power, I see that I just needed to take the steps to get off the struggle bus. And I see I see the contrast between me and my coworkers, especially those of color, for example. And yeah, they often remind me of me like 2 years back. And I just want to say it's easy to just need to make a choice. Even though that's all that you have known in your life, you can get off the struggle bus. It's okay. And so it's really good to share with them that it's something that's possible. And one thing that strikes me is leading to this conversation, I read an article about the Trump remain in Mexico jurisdiction that Biden was trying to basically abolish to come back to the former law that enabled Mexican people and Hispanic people from Central America to come into the United States, waiting for their documentation. And it was refused. And I think, knowing a bit about the justice systems, I think it was refused because decisions were rushed, and also the arguments were not worked in a way that made sense. And so even though ethically everyone knows that this jurisdiction should be abolished. It was not. And so I think all of it was like, a bunch of choices where like people of color are attached to this idea that they need to struggle and fight to have what they want. And also like feeling powerless to the point that you're not working and loving the situation completely to the end. And so it reflected in that the Supreme Court said like it's not complete. The arguments are not like put forth and loved completely. So we're not gonna, recognize that you have rights here. And so yeah, I think like I would have been maybe taken aback, maybe angered like 1 year ago about that before feeling my feelings. And I think today I was just realizing that I felt peaceful about it, not because it's like a fair judgment, but because it's logical that it would happen like that because it's a result of choices made from powerlessness. And so, yeah, I recognize this within myself, and I was able to say, I don't want to be attached to the energy of struggle anymore. And so I know it can be like a pretty sensitive topic. I don't know how you guys feel about that. But yeah, that was my take from what I read about this jurisdiction.
I'd say like everything everyone was saying I resonate with, especially like really releasing resistance, because it kind of like if you're struggling, it doesn't like allow you to enjoy the process of your journey. And like one thing that I totally moved through on this journey in general with struggling is like, releasing like a false twin flame. And like that was like struggle. That was literally like being attached to struggle and like not letting it go. And when you realize like, oh, like maybe this isn't my twin flame. I released this struggle. This is way too hard. Then like you're with your true twin flame. It's like, oh, like this is so much easier than I thought it was. It's like so natural. And yeah, like it's not natural to struggle at all. So yeah, that's what I like reflect on, is how like I've had to move through that in my life to come into union with my true twin flame. I had to release struggle in totality, basically, to like realize like how easy it is to even just be yourself. And like be with your twin flame. So yeah, release struggle. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I 100% like resonate with what everyone was saying. Since finding the work, like I too have learned how to release my relationship with struggle. And I just had something come up last week. I got really sick and actually had to be in the hospital for a few days. And I just remember like with everything going on, I still felt really peaceful. And like everyone around me was freaking out. My parents were freaking out, family, super worried. And I'm just like, I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'm like, the doctors are taking care of me. It's okay. And I just thought about it like, wow, this could have been really different. Like, my reaction could have been way worse, but I was just calm and peaceful. I just felt like there was no reason to stress. Um, and so, yeah, like I can see how I really am starting to release my relationship with struggle. I feel like there's still, kind of like what Yoreen was saying, there's still a piece there around being a person of color, being a woman of color in particular, and like having this attachment to struggle, or like feeling like because you're a Black woman, you instinctively struggle, or that like it's just not, life isn't as easy for you as it may be for others, like still attaching to that belief. But I recognize it's a process, like letting that go and just choosing to create in my reality, and choosing ease and love there. So yeah.
I love that you said you were in the hospital and like your family around you was freaking out, because you really showed how like it's all about the inner and you healing it, and you really claimed your mastery. Because I like experienced a similar situation where like there was like a tornado warning, and like one of my family members texted me and were like trying to get me all worked up about it, and I was just like, okay, like if it comes through my area, I'm gonna get in the basement, but I'm not gonna sit here and like freak out about something. And then it never even came near my area. So yeah, like that's really important. Like just really claiming your mastery in any moment, because you're always with God.
Yeah, I like what
Yeah, the
you
card that we have.
shared there. Okay, you carry on with the card and then I'll carry on with my point.
Okay, which was surrender outdated beliefs about yourself. It says let go of limiting ideas about yourself that originate from the past. Then you can own your own power and soar in your life. So just, I came back to Tiana talking about how like as Black women believe that we have to struggle. And it's just like as we make that choice, we can help others make that choice too, because that's not the truth. They don't have to struggle. That's the lie.
Yeah, I like what your card is sharing, what the card that you've pulled is sharing, because for me, it came back to that energy of how simple it is to actually release the illusion. And it's something that I've kind of been working through with my coach over the last few days, that the simplicity of the release of that illusion is just like, it's quite profound. Because you'd like, for me, the energy felt a little bit, it was almost an energy of anxious anticipation and that kind of stuff. And like at the core of it, there was just a super powerful feeling of groundedness and safety. And, just kind of healing even just looking at the piece helped me to heal it. And I think, Anisha, it was you that spoke to just even not wanting to look at some things, and that yet when you do look, you just realize how easily you can transcend the illusion, and how easily you can transcend the almost bad feeling attached in that space. And yes, it's easy for us to say that now that we have learned that. And I think that's the power of what all of you have been speaking to around having found this work and learned how to just stop resisting love in those places where you're really calling for it. And it reminds me of a quote that I've read, or in fact, it wasn't a quote, it was in a Vanessa Williams song, which she says, like sometimes the very thing you're looking for is the one thing you can't see. And it's just that thing, like it's like you're looking when you're probably not, you're probably not allowing yourself to see it, and it's probably not even being allowed to surface because there's all this other crap on top of it. And it kind of comes back to that energy of looking in those dark corners and actually realizing that there isn't really darkness in those corners. It's just that the light is taking longer to reach them, but there's not really darkness there. And it speaks to the energy of what Diana was speaking, like, just almost this perpetual sense that people of color have to struggle, which just speaks to that limitation of belief and that limitation of thought pattern. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're going to think it, it's probably going to appear. Whereas if you're going to think on an opposite track, you're probably going to see evidence of the highlight of that it is the opposite, that it is simple, that it is easy. And yes, there might be times where we have to work harder, but hard work was never equated to struggle. And I don't think any one of us has ever really been afraid of hard work. It's what we do. It's kind of who we are. It's kind of, and it's something that Jeff and Shaleia shared in terms of our relationship with the world. It's an energy exchange, which means there's work to be done. It's that simplicity of carrying the water and chopping the wood. Like we do that. That's how we engage with life. And when you think about it as simply as that, it doesn't feel like struggle at all. It's just how we engage with life. And so we went through this stuff and just kind of yield into the simplicity and the ease of what it is, I just realized that actually I can have a much more peaceful and natural relationship with life. And it doesn't have to be in the energy of burden.
I think Diana definitely touched on it, and then you all added pieces to it. But what comes up for me is like transgenerational trauma, in which it's so deeply ingrained in us that even me, that was like seeing my parents and my relative and coworkers struggle, I'd say there must be a way out of this. This is not natural. Even me at some point, when I was young, I was like, yeah, that's our nature, like hard work, struggle, even like some type of suffering is our nature. And it's not like I was doing it consciously, but I was seeing my white friends and I was seeing me. I was like, oh, my nature is just to work more. My nature is just to do this differently than them. I don't know if you understand this, but it's like this feeling, this lie, this wall that you put up between you and the truth, and that is keeping you experiencing hell. And I definitely think that it's linked to the different historical lines of the people of color and how harsh it has been. But yeah, I think we were attracted to this work and to this discussion because in some way we recognize that this is not our nature to be struggling. And now that we know, now that we have learned, we can see that what we thought was our nature, what the generations before us thought was our nature, our way of life, is not that. It's false. It's not our relationship with life and with God. It's supposed to be easy. And we are slowly, I guess, relaxing into that ease. And yeah, that's what it feels to me like. It's ease, it's relaxed, when we were talking about struggle, and I don't think we would have had that same energy like a year ago.
Yeah, I'm finding that struggling is actually much more harder work than to surrender to the work. One of the things that I had experienced last year with like COVID, I was out of work due to COVID, but I was not receiving my unemployment because I had to go through a whole process with self-employment. And so I was paying rent half a rent every month. And it came to a point where like my landlord was trying to tell me that I was going to be evicted around Christmas time. And I was really struggling on how to figure out how to like pay what I owed back. And so instead of ignoring it and like sitting in the struggle, I really surrendered to the inner work. And I really asked God to show me what it was that I needed to do to move out of this struggle. I was like, I really don't ever want to be back here in this place again, God. Like I'm ready to transcend this and move through this so I'm never in this situation again. And through the inner work, I was able to really come to a place of peace and really start to see the things God was aligning for me to like look at and move through. And probably about not even like a week later, I came across this application to help get assistance for rental assistance if you're moving through like issues with COVID. And so I did everything that God asked me to do, and I made sure to do it from a place of peace. And so as I did that, my landlord kept like coming at me and I kept choosing peace. And finally, God gave me all of these things that he gave me this list. I came across this list that all the things your landlord cannot do during this time. So I was able to email that to my landlord and I was like, look, sir, like I'm done with harassment. You actually have broken like 8 of these 10 rules. Leave me alone. And so I was able to move out of that struggle. And then about 2 months after I did the application, not only did I get approved for the application and they paid for all of the rent that I owed during COVID, because that's not your fault. It's just part of the situation we're all in. So I got approved and they paid my old landlord. Not only did my old landlord get paid, but he decided to give the building to someone else. And so he was no longer my landlord. So I transcended that. And then not even a week later, unemployment paid me back for all 2020. So I got taken care of. I got to keep my apartment. I also got my unemployment and I got a new landlord. I was like, this work is something else, where I could have spent the last 3 or 4 months just like freaking out, thinking that I was going to have my good taken from me and just struggling and in the obsession of all the things that I couldn't do. But instead, I just surrendered to loving myself. And I was so grateful for my coaches at the time and the support of this community, because it kept reminding me to just claim my good, claim the love, claim God in that space, and to know that I was going to be completely taken care of. And by moving through that experience, that was really kind of a turning point for me to really understand like God hears and sees me and is always with me. And if I need absolutely anything, I claim it and move through that and really know that he's going to take care of me. And in this case, he took care of me in ways that I wasn't even expecting. Like a miracle after miracle unfolded. And I was just like, wow, like this work literally, God will move mountains and part seas for you. All you have to do is surrender to the inner work and love yourself in that place and really claim your good. And know that like I said, it really took much more energy for me to struggle over surrendering to the work and just loving myself in that place.
Yeah, I like that. And like, just today I was just working through this with my coach as well. Like I decided, 2019, I decided I'd had enough of corporate life. And so I resigned from the job that I had, and there wasn't really a plan at the time. And I started training on NLP coaching, and I went into the Ascension Coaches in Training program. And even in all of that time, like, my lifestyle didn't change one little bit, except for well, COVID rules and lockdowns and curfews and all of those kind of things. And I was in such a majorly fortunate position that I was able to renovate my house twice while all this stuff was happening, right? So, you know, like, and like my lifestyle literally didn't change. And like I built the most epic office in my backyard, and I managed to put solar panels on my, it's like solar panels on my roof to have the constant flow of electricity, so that, you know, the times, because in South Africa we have these rolling, we have what we call load shedding, which is rolling blackouts. And so occasionally all of those things all interfere with living your life. And I was able to do all of those things to still live a very comfortable life. And, you know, it's just that the energy of it is just that we don't actually realize how God takes care of us. Like, we don't quite get it. And then when we get it, we really get it. Like, it's like there was no struggle in the first place. Like, yes, you did some hard yards. Yes, you paid your school fees. Like, that's your relationship with life. You pay your school fees. You learn some things. You just get this mountain of skill through all that you learn. But if you're not prepared to actually accept the lesson, you are going to feel like you're struggling. I think that is the difference. And when I look back, like, the struggle was just that I couldn't go out and about all the time, which was like also fortunate because I got time to chill. Like almost like the end of October this year, it would be like 3 years of proper healing and chilling, which I wouldn't have had the time for if I'd had a full-time job. And like, you know, like when I feel into it now, I'm in such a much healthier space that I can take on all of those components of rejigging my life purpose the way God shows me. Like, I can pull in all of my skill from corporate, and I can pull in all my coaching skill, and I've just got this mountain of skill that has built up over the last 3 years. And I didn't actually have to, for one split second, worry about where the rental is coming from, worry about my mortgage, worry about food and electricity and all those other things. And even when I chose to, when we were able to, again, just, you know, like be out and about, my lifestyle still didn't change. And then, like, it's testament to how God really provides, and how we actually need to realize what God's provision is in our life. Because, like, you know, I could have very easily gone the opposite route of like, I'm not doing anything and, you know, this is a problem. And it's not. It's not. I've actually been quite fortunate in that in all the years that I was able to save and build up that nest egg, like, it didn't break the bank to take almost 3 years off actually working. Like, I don't know many people that can just turn around and say that kind of thing. But then, you know, like, I sit back and I'm like, yeah, God was there the whole time. Like, God was literally there the whole time. God was there the whole time, and that is why I'm in the position that I am. And that's why I was fortunate enough to take that time out and really concentrate on my healing, which was meant to be my primary focus in the first place.
This is good, like realizing that there is no struggle, like there's like challenges, so like those challenges are just lessons. And also, yeah, when you accept the lessons, like God provides times 1,000, because like, yeah, it gives so much more than what you expect. Yeah, and if I go back through like the last years of my studies, like I'm a student, of course I work for my internship, but it's not like a full-time paying job. But I was still able to build a foundation here. I was still able to pay for my expenses. I was still able to invest in myself and in the work. And if I go back and analyze the whole 2 years that it took for me to get to this point, I didn't really have to worry about where the money was coming from. Like, of course, I worked to sustain myself because it's life, but I was always helped in some way. So yeah, it just felt good to have that realization and also realize that it's always gonna get better. Like there's a momentum when you have that realization and then you build on it, and yeah, then you actually don't have to really worry. Like I'm thinking about like financial needs. You don't have to really worry about like how to provide for yourself. And it was really good. And I mean, all of us have to go through that. And I'm realizing that more and more. I think like people of color, Black people especially, thinking of my island right now and all the demonstrations that there is, and some of it are nonsensical, and I'm realizing that it's because a lot of people are making up excuses to not go through the lessons and are choosing ego in some way. And so sometimes the excuses is that, the government is racist and you're just going to control and enslave us. But I think right now, a lot of people in the world are enslaving themselves by actually choosing to be victims where it's not necessary. I mean, it's never necessary, but like it's, excuses to cover that you have to actually work, you have to actually take the steps to sustain yourself.
And I feel like you've touched on something quite important in the sense that they choose to be victims because they technically fear how powerful they really are. And I think that's really the thing that clashes with the energy of struggle. When you realize how powerful you actually are, the energy of struggle tends to fall away almost naturally. It's like it kind of dissipates in the intensity of what it may have been in the past. But again, it comes back to, what am I learning in this space? What is it teaching me about myself? And it goes back to the point that you made earlier around the intergenerational trauma. Like we have been accustomed to seeing our parents and even our grandparents and aunts and uncles and just other people of color in the communities where we live struggle. And so it almost became this view that that's the only way, and even sometimes the feeling that that's the only way. And then, like, when I look back on my life, like certain things were just easy because I didn't have the feeling of I can't. It was just like, okay, this is the next step. This is the next piece. And I think it just kind of, it gets more and more solidified through this work. Like, don't worry about the 10 steps ahead of you. Take that first step. It's literally the energy of, you don't jump from the ground floor to the first floor. You gradually move up that staircase. Even if you get inside an elevator, it gradually moves. You don't just materialize on the first floor kind of thing. It's not a time travel kind of energy. It's literally a gradual ascension. And so even, just that, like, knowing that, okay, this is my step now. The next step is not so clear just yet, but let's deal here. Let's focus here. Let's learn here. Let's heal here. And then that energy of, oh well, then that's the next one. And just, just that the simplicity of, oh, that's the next one. Like, also just releases the energy of struggle. Because I didn't have to focus on 3 steps ahead. I had to focus on this first thing, this first place where my energy was required. And so I was able to dedicate energy to that first thing. And using that energy and absorbing the healing there gave me more energy to take the next step. And I think that is the progression of releasing that relationship with struggle, because it does feel significantly simpler and so much easier. And yeah, there are going to be times where, like, like, it's not clear, but we also have the power to call in clarity. And in that clarity, we also have the power to partner with God in that space. And there are times when we might even need God to carry us in that space. And there's never a place at which I've heard that God says, no, I don't want to carry you in that space.
Yeah, I think what you really touched on there was like something I heard yesterday was that sometimes if you're thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future or you're thinking about what you could be doing, that's you not being present with yourself. And I find that that's a lot of where my struggle comes from, is thinking so much about the past or thinking what could possibly happen in the future instead of just being present with myself in that moment and taking the step that's in front of me at that point. And that's really, I feel, where a lot of people's struggle comes from, is because their energy is so scattered and in different places instead of just being present with themselves.
Yeah, it's really what Jeff and Shaleia were talking about in that sermon on why Black Lives Matter. I think Jeff ended it with like saying that Black people are powerful, and when they claim that power, the world is going to change. And it's because we've been so used to like giving our power away, I guess, as a whole group of people. Then when everyone change on an individual level, it's literally gonna change a lot of things, generally speaking. So yeah, I think yeah, maybe there's a fear about the power that we hold, or a fear about changing, which would explain the card surrendering your outdated belief about yourself.
Yeah, I can.
I like what you said. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I can definitely resonate with like the fear of power, but I'm realizing that it was kind of like what Granville was saying, that it really stems from a misconception that power is like this ability to do all these grand things in a short amount of time. when really true power is just doing what's in front of you. I really like the elevator example. Like, even an elevator doesn't jump all the way to the 10th floor, like, it gradually moves up. And just being able to gradually take the next step, that's power. And there's nothing to be afraid of in just choosing to take the next step in front of you. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
I wanted to touch back on what Urene had talked about, what Jeff had mentioned, that like when we claim our power, the world will change. And today I was listening to an artist that I've listened to for years, and he talks a lot about how the inequality of Black people versus white people, and just really at the time I used to like really resonate what he would say, because he was really coming from a place that like I was sitting in. But today I was listening to his music and I was like, something feels bad as I'm like listening. And it's because like he's coming from a place of like victim mentality, and like look at how like Black people are being mistreated and this is wrong. And he was like, I could really just feel the deep upset in his music, even though he was trying to come from a place of like awareness and like trying to like just shine light on it, which is what he does. But because I have shifted so much and claimed my power, I no longer resonate in the way that he's coming about it, or I can really just feel and sense his upset here. And so I was like, wow, like at one point I used to resonate with this person, but now like I'm like, no, you are not seeing Black people clearly. You're not seeing how truly powerful they are. You are not claiming your power. And it was a really interesting place to be, especially because I had resonated with his music for so long, to being at a point where I'm like, yeah, that doesn't jive with me anymore. Like, sorry, Black people are fucking amazing. They have power. They are not helpless, and I'm not okay with this anymore. So really being able to just claim my own power is definitely shifting the way that I look at my reality and my world, instead of being in this victim mentality with the rest of people of color.
Yeah, agreed. Like I have this reflection now every time I design um a meme for Black Lives Matter. I'm like, oh, why are there so many pictures of people leaking their power like that? And so what I'm wondering is, now that we know that we claim our true power back by surrendering to God, like I'm wondering like deeply, what did we think we get we get from coming from a victim mentality, because it feels like people want to stay stuck in it, and so it doesn't feel like actual change, you know. It feels like yeah, I guess it feels like powerlessness. It's like, hey, I'm here, hear me now, see me now, because you have not seen me for centuries, and I need to exist. But it feels like it's kind of sad, like a cry of despair.
So I like the question that you asked, because like when I feel into it, like just, you know, that space feels, again, as you said, like partly it feels like just victim mentality, powerlessness. But the other part I get is that if they, regardless of whether it's good or bad attention, as long as there's attention. And so let's focus attention on the thing that everybody knows, which is that there was a struggle, and that there was suppression, and there was oppression, and all that other crap. And yet, when you feel past that, you just realize, well, like at no point in my life does it feel like anybody but me has my power. And so if I have my power, what stops me from using it profoundly in my life And if I invite myself into using my power for my highest good, don't I then extend the invitation to other people to meet me there, as opposed to meeting me in the struggle mentality, in the powerless mentality? And if we're all inviting everybody into that space of powerfully using our power to create for our highest good, of course it's going to shift. It can't not shift. And that shift feels to me like that might be the thing that scares people. Like, because now you're fully responsible. It's no longer somebody else's fault. It's like you are now responsible. What do you do with this? And it takes me back to when I started university. Like, when you're at school, it's very regimented, very controlled. There's a lot of discipline applied. There's a lot of structure applied. And then you start your tertiary studies. And as long as you pay, they really don't care. They actually don't care. They have their money, they rock up for their lectures, but it's your responsibility to show up and do the work and succeed at the work. And that shift sometimes made me feel a little bit unhinged in the beginning. Like, it probably took me about 6 months to acclimatize to the fact that I'm actually responsible for my own discipline and for my own success here and for my own just even absorbing the information. It's like somebody wasn't feeding you. Like that energy of being in school and kind of almost being told what to think wasn't there. All of a sudden, I was allowed to think for myself. I was allowed to do what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. And it kind of unhinged me a little. And I had to get accustomed to this new phase of energy in my life and this new space in my life. And I feel like this is kind of that similar thing of when you release the struggle and realize your power, you also realize the responsibility you have in your own life. And I think that might just scare some people.
I agree with that. I personally was one of those people who was terrified of taking full responsibility of myself. However, I did learn very quickly, which is step 3 of the mirror exercise, taking full responsibility of the upset, that if I didn't take full responsibility, I was going to continue to relearn that lesson or have that lesson show up until I learned it. And so to have that discipline and to really take full responsibility of myself, and really truly see my power in that really helps me recognize that I am a limitless being. I can have anything that I truly desire if I choose to take responsibility of what's happening in my reality. And because I show up in that way, and I share the mirror exercise with everyone, and a lot of the things that people, I trigger a lot of people because I remind them that if you don't like what's happening in your reality, you have to take full responsibility of it. And that's where people get really upset is when I show them that or explain that to them. But it's because they just want to point fingers and they want to have someone else take full responsibility of what's happening that they don't like. And so but it really comes back to understanding that like you are the only one who can create in your reality, and having to understand that you have free will to have whatever it is that is happening in your life, what you desire. But like if you don't like it, it really comes back to you. It comes back to you taking full responsibility of it. And so I do feel the more that like I share myself authentically in that way, that there are more people very open to like taking responsibility of their life. It's more of that they just weren't shown how to do it, and how to do it from a place that was a solid foundation. That's one of the things that I loved about this last week's sermon from Chrissy and Jay was really learning how to create a solid foundation so that you can have that healthy lifestyle and it doesn't just leave you. You had to like implement places where you just start implementing it slowly. So for me, it was like having to take responsibility of my everyday life, taking responsibility of my body, taking responsibility of my health. That required me to really look at places that didn't always feel good, like going to bed by a certain time or waking up by a certain time. But as I really started to implement that slowly but surely, it became a really healthy habit for me. To now my life is flowing in a much loving pace, and really having to understand that I was the only one who can change that. I'm the only one who can change what's happening in my reality if I don't like it. And that requires me to be completely 100% responsible of me, instead of feeling like I am meant to struggle in my struggles because of everyone else, or my struggles because the power is in the hands of the rich white people. Just stuff like that, like things that people really like to instill fear. That's one of the things I noticed lately is there were people that I resonated for a long time with, and then they all of a sudden are like, well, so and so is going to take your power, or because these people are in power, you don't have power. And I was like, whoa, I don't resonate with that whatsoever. Like, God created me completely and fully abundant with his power within me. And so choosing to really recognize that your responsibility is that discipline with your responsibility is really what's going to cultivate the life that you truly desire. And if you don't want to take full responsibility, well, then your life is going to look like a struggle.
And then picking up from what you said is that people feel that change is difficult to the point where it is impossible, and even maybe out of their range. Like, for example, as a racial group, they're not given the means to enable that change. So all that they see as a solution is like calling for attention and using their voice and their image for attention. And so, yeah, I feel it's really beautiful that we have this work to realize that we have the tools to change, and that it's not difficult. It can be challenging, but it can be also a step-by-step surrendered thing that feels like it's going deeper and deeper into ease every day. I think it's really beautiful, and I think that, in a sense, is the answer that a lot of people are seeking, and that would help them, I guess, alleviate that fear of change and make them realize that it's not a choice between like an impossible thing and the next best thing, which is to call for attention outside of themselves.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that, like you've kind of just wrapped it up nicely, is that it's not the choice between the possible and the impossible. It's kind of the choice of using your power responsibly enough to shift your reality. That's really what it is. And we didn't get power to use it irresponsibly. And the fact that we now understand how powerful we really are helps to even just instill that in consciousness as people of color, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and the word impossible, you can't spell it without I'm possible. So I don't even believe that is really a word. Like, if you have the power to like God will do miracles, the things that feel impossible, but you have to really claim your power in that space. And the last card we have is joy, surrender to joy. A key to positive change in your life is to let joy in and savor it. Indulge in random acts of smiling during both hard and easy times. Keep surrendering to more joy.
Amen. I like that. So yeah, thank you everybody for today's conversation. We have reached our hour, so we'd like to thank everybody that has followed us up until now. And for anybody that's new to our conversation, please feel free to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our previous conversations in our series on why Black Lives Matter and any other live conversations that have happened in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group. And we will see all of you next week. Thank you, everybody.